Welcome everybody to my latest video. So for this video, I thought I would go over with you guys basically an explanation of the Capcom CPS2 hardware. One of the reasons for this video is I got about, I think it was about 2 or 3 emails. People were asking some questions. As you know, the last few videos I put up were videos regarding my Hyper Anniversary board and my Alien vs Predator board. But anyways, I thought I just might as well go over everything. Now, I'm not sure how long this video is going to be, so let's just start and we'll see where it ends. Now, what you're looking at right here is a CPS2 Arcade Hardware set. Here you can see it's a complete set. It's basically everything you need depending on the game. Now, a complete arcade board will come with the B board, which is this top board, the A board, which is this bottom board, these little brackets right here. As you can see, there's 4 of them. And it will also come with these clips right here. Now, you don't need these. They do help, but it's not necessary. It doesn't affect the game in terms of gameplay or anything. Basically, all it does is it helps keep the A and B board together. I'll go over that in a little bit. But basically, here you are. You can see everything here. Let's see if you can see that a little bit better. In my opinion, this is probably one of the nicest looking pieces of hardware. It's real nice and sleek, almost kind of a futuristic type of look to it. Now, this is the complete set. And here is just the B board by itself. You can take a look. And one of the emails I got is someone had emailed me. Ooh, a little dirty right there. Wow. In fact, that's just going to annoy me, so let me just wipe that off real quick. I have to clean that up. But anyways, as I was saying, someone had sent me an email. They had purchased a game, and they weren't quite sure how to hook it up because this is all they had. And they emailed someone else. I'm not sure if it was on YouTube or some of the forums, and they got back a real douchey response. Which, if you're a part of the arcade community and someone needs your help, why not help them? You know, that was one of the reasons why I started making videos in the first place, is because when I didn't know jack shit about anything, you know, there wasn't any information around. And when I did ask people, well, sometimes we were douchebags. But anyways, the guy was confused. He's like, you know, he's looking at this and he's like, well, how am I supposed to attach the JAMA harness? And, you know, I explained everything, but, you know, I thought I'd make a video anyways. So here you are. This is the B board. This contains the actual game. It's a plastic case, and inside it looks like just any other arcade board. All the capacitors and, you know, this and that. And it's just tucked away inside. Now, in order to play this on your cabinet, you need this. And this is the CPS2A board. You can get a nice look at it here. It's got a built-in fan right here, which is really nice. Here you got the audio jacks right here. I think you only use these if you're going to install it in a Capcom Big Blue cabinet. I don't know for sure because I never had one of those cabinets, but you can see right here, this is where your JAMA harness gets connected. So you need this in order to play this. And like I said, one of the guys who emailed me, who was asking about the question of how to hook it up, well, he didn't know that. And, you know, he asked around, or he asked one person that he told me about. He said, he got a douchebag response, and he was just, wanting to get into the arcade hobby, and he needed some help. So, thought I'd help right here with this video. Now, you're looking at this, and if you notice, right there, it says USA. And if you've had a CPS2 board, it may have been in a blue color. However, it could have been in other colors. The case may have been orange, gray, green. Is there another color? No, I don't think so. Let's see, there's blue, green, gray, yellow. And then there's a black version, which is an all-in-one unit of the B board and the A board. I won't be covering that here because I don't have one, and those games usually go for insane amounts of prices. So, back to this. Now let's say you have a B board and it's a gray color. So you might be thinking, well, I got my gray colored B board and I got my A board. You put it together, nothing happens. You're probably wondering what's going on. Well, I'll get to that in 1 second. Okay, so now let's talk about the different colored boards. So maybe you're on Craigslist or eBay and you see a CPS2 game you want. And let's say you have a blue colored A board, but the game you want, it's not blue. Let's say it's yellow or green. So you might be wondering, well, why is that? Well, depending on the color, I'll just put this right here. Depending on the color, that will tell you where the game was originally intended for upon its release. Different regions had different colored boards. Now, I got some visual aids here, so just bear with me. They're real spur-of-the-moment aids, so just, have some faith in my skills. Different colors mean different regions. And depending on what color this is, that will depend on whether you can use a different colored board. So let's first go ahead and go with the colors. First, you got blue. Blue was for the United States and Europe. Next, you got Japan. Japan was assigned the color green. Next, you have Asia. Asia had gray colored boards. It's kind of almost like Sesame Street, isn't it? Next, we have orange. And for orange, the boards were for South America. And finally, many do not know this, but there was actually a yellow colored board. And the yellow colored board was for everywhere. Now, I've never actually seen a yellow colored board, but apparently it was intended for all regions and it was a rental only board. What that means is I believe Capcom would rent these out to an operator. The operator could test it and decide whether they want to purchase the region board, whatever proper color. Now, here's where it gets a little tricky. Some boards have to have the exact same color. Others do not. First, let's go with blue. So again, USA and Europe. Obviously, these need to match. The other thing is the A board will have the color and the region right here on a label. Sometimes people peel them off, and that can be a hassle if you're trying to figure out which region it is, especially if you're purchasing this online. But obviously, blue and blue, USA and Europe. Now, the thing is, green boards were compatible. Green B boards were compatible with blue A boards. So you can take a Japanese game and install it on an American A board. And you can do that vice versa. So let's say you had, I'll just hold that down. Let's say you had a green colored A board. You can install a blue colored B board. Make sense? Now, let's go to gray. Gray, which of course was Asia, was 100% non-compatible with any other region. It was completely locked. So you needed a gray A board and a gray B board. That's the only way you could get the game to work. Now let's go to yellow, which I don't think there was a yellow A board. I think it was just the yellow B board, and it didn't matter what color, you know, whether it was, you know, orange, gray, green, blue, whatever. It just worked. It was intended for all regions. Now, so there's one more thing, the orange. Again, just like the gray board, South American orange boards were completely region locked. You needed an orange A board and an orange B board. That's it. So hopefully that explained everything. If you have any questions on that, email me and I'll try and explain it again. But hopefully that takes away any confusion as far as which B board will work with which A board. Now, let me get my little visual aids out of the way here. Now, got that out of the way. Now we'll go to the next step. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to cover is the kick harness. Now, you're wondering, well, what's a kick harness? Basically, a kick harness adds extra buttons to your arcade game. If you know, or if you've read or heard, JAMA only supplies buttons and joystick wires for player 1 and 2. And for buttons 1 through 3 mostly, sometimes up to 4. And I think very, very rarely up to 5. I think if it's got 5, it's not considered JAMA. It's usually something else. But anyways. So when you have a game like Alien vs. Predator, which is a 3-player game, or you got Street Fighter or Hyper Street Fighter Anniversary Edition, I really need to get a replacement label. You might be thinking, well, where do I get those extra buttons? How do I hook those up? Well, that's where the JAMA harness, or excuse me, the kick harness comes in. Now the kick harness, you just hook it up to the extra buttons, joysticks, whatever it is that you need that's extra. And the one end, of course, goes to the buttons and joysticks or whatever. The other end gets hooked right in there. Now the good thing is the CPS2 kick harness is also compatible with CPS3 hardware. So in case you want to upgrade to, say, Street Fighter Third Strike. However, it's also compatible with Sega Naomi. I think for like Street Fighter 03 Upper. I had my notes here, but apparently they have vanished. Oh yeah, sorry. The Sega Naomi IO board. And that's for like Street Fighter 03 Upper, which I just said 2 seconds ago. So anyways, it's real nice and simple. You can only plug it in one way. So if you plug it in the wrong way, it's not going to go in. But again, you just want to be careful. One end with all the eye loops or whatever you call them, those go to the joysticks or buttons. The other end goes into here. And that's how you get your extra joysticks and buttons that are needed. Now, when you have a game, of course, like I said, you need the A board and B board. And the way it goes, you can see right here, you got 4 of these connectors down here. And, well, basically that's what transfers the information from the game board to the motherboard. You can see there's these connections on the opposite side. So they basically get sandwiched together. Now, next comes these clips. Hopefully this will focus in good. You don't need these, but they do help with holding everything together. And you can see that's how it works. I'll go ahead and take this one off, and you can see where they go. Right there. And all you do is you press them in. This is what it looks like. And all it does is just hold things together. Like I said, you don't need these, but it does help because sometimes you get some bad connection problems. You know, over time, you don't want these exposed because dirt and dust can get inside, and those clips just help sandwich everything together. So now on to the next step, which is pretty cool. So give me a second. Okay, now I'm going to show you something that I really like about the CPS2 hardware. Now, on your A board, on the side, you'll see these 3 buttons. Now, most games that you might be familiar with, to adjust the volume on your speakers, usually there's a knob actually on the board. And hold on, let me see if I can get something to show you. Okay, here we are. Now this is the volume pot or volume knob, whatever you want to call it. This is my Aliens board. And you know, when you have the board tucked away and you're trying to adjust the volume, you know, sometimes you got to dig in there, feel around, touch the knob. You spin it too much, it gets too loud. You spin it the other way too much, it gets too low. But on the CPS2 hardware, it's got these buttons right here. This is volume up, this is volume down. So you just press those and the volume goes up and down. Real nice and easy. Can't do it too much, can't do it too little. Just press it once, it goes up. You just keep pressing it until you get the volume that you want. Now, the other cool thing, when you start collecting arcade cabinets, you'll learn very quickly that some people do wild and weird things to their cabinets. One thing every cabinet should have, in my opinion, is a test switch. And the test switch will take you into the settings of a game, depending on what game it is. Some of the older games have dip switches like this. And depending on whether you put a particular switch up or down, you know, you can make changes to the games, such as difficulty, time, coin options, etc. Now, if you have a game that requires a test switch and your cabinet doesn't have a test switch, usually you have to wire one in. If you don't know what you're doing, it can be a hassle, especially if you're new to the hobby. For people who are, you know, quote unquote seasoned pros, it's no problem. But you gotta remember, we all started in this hobby and we probably didn't know jack shit. So, the CPS2 A board has a built-in test button. So if you have a cabinet that does have a test switch or a test button, you can either use that button switch on the cabinet, or you can press this and it'll take you to the settings menu for the CPS2 game. If your cabinet doesn't have a test switch button, well, normally you would be screwed if you didn't know what you were doing. In this case, you just press the button. Real nice, simple. So that's one thing I really liked about the CPS2 hardware. In my opinion, it's probably one of the best pieces of hardware out there, especially if you're new to the hobby. It has, I don't know, what, about 45, 50 different games. And if you're a fighting game fan, you're in for a treat, because there's like 20 some fighting games. And if you're a Street Fighter fan, that alone, let's see, you got Street Fighter Alpha 1 through 3, you got Super Street Fighter 2, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, you got the Japanese only Street Fighter 2 X, the Grandmaster Challenge. It's a little bit different than Super Turbo. You got Hyper Anniversary Edition. I think there's another tournament, Super Street Fighter 2 Edition. And then, you got, 5 Darkstalker games. So, yeah, if you're a fighting fan, CPS2 hardware is the way to go. Well, at least in my opinion. But anyways, hopefully that covered everything. If anybody has any questions, send me an email, message, a comment, whatever. Hopefully those that had other questions, hopefully this helped. If not, let me know what you need, and I'll try to explain it even more. So, I don't know, I can't think of anything else, but there you are. So, until okay, so I'm about to put away the camera, and I just realized I forgot to mention one of the most important things regarding the CPS2 hardware. And I'm lucky I remembered this, because, I would have felt like an ass not explaining this. Now, I went over one of the things I liked best about the hardware. Now I'm going to go over something that I like the least about the hardware. I think that these games were basically meant to not last forever. Now, what I mean is, Capcom probably wanted operators to purchase these, and then when these died, and I'll tell you why they die, they wanted operators to not bother with this and to instead go on to the next hardware system, whatever it would be. In this case, the next successor was the CPS3 hardware. Now, you may be asking, how does this die? How does this get damaged? It's in a protective case. Well, here's the thing. Inside of here, where there's the main board, there is a battery. Now, I'm not going to use the technical terms. Once again, remember, my videos don't use technical terms. I use nice, easy to understand terms and wording. There's a battery inside here that's, of course, attached to the PCB. Basically, that battery is the life force behind the game. And I'm not quite sure the exact definition of what it does specifically, but when that battery dies, I believe within an hour, the game suicides. In fact, that's what people in the arcade collecting hobby or whatever, that's what they say. Your CPS2 board has suicided, or, it died, whatever. But they say it suicides. And the reason is because the ROMs on the board, in easy to understand terms, they think that they need the battery. I think it's like an encryption key or something. Now, when the game dies because the battery is dead, you might be thinking, well, okay, it's trash. Well, no, it's not. You can do what's called phoenixing the board, or you can have someone Phoenix it, or basically if you've seen some games, they turn on and it'll say Alien vs. Predator, Phoenix Edition. Street Fighter Alpha 3, Phoenix Edition. Now, what does that mean? Well, there's basically a certain number of people within the hobby, and the number's probably grown in the last few years, but there's some of the grandfathers of this, I guess you could say. These are the guys, and I don't know if you want to call them hackers or whatever, but they found a way to take the EPROMs on the board and reprogram them, bring them back to life, and break the encryption that makes the EPROM believe it needs the battery. Did you get all that? And it's not expensive to do this. There's a very well-known guy out in France, I believe, and hopefully I'm pronouncing his name correct, Razula. If I didn't pronounce your name correct, sorry, but anyways, this guy does it for like $40, and that includes shipping back to the United States. The price might depend on the game, but anyways, you just send him the EPROMs, he reprograms them, and then he gives you instructions on how to, what to do to the board, so it'll basically work, and you never have to worry about the battery again. Now, some hardcore collectors don't like Phoenix editions of the game because it's not straight from the manufacturer authentic. And I've seen Phoenix edition versions of the game sell higher than regular versions, and I've seen it sell lower. I guess it's just depending on what the market wants or what the individual collector wants. But yes, if you have a CPS2 game board, if you want it to stay authentic, you will have to replace the battery every, 3 to 4 years. And it's real easy to do if you have the right tooling. JAMA Boards sells a battery replacement kit. I think JAMA Boards even will replace the battery for you for an additional fee. You send them the board. But, if you have the right tooling, it's not too hard to do. If I ever need to do it, I'll probably make a video on how to do it. But yeah, the board can die for many reasons. It could even die from the battery leaking acid. But if the board dies because the battery is dead, then you can have it either phoenixed, or you can have the EPROMs reprogrammed again. And I think that's what they said. You'll have to replace the battery, but the EPROMs will be like new. And so I guess technically it's 100% authentic again. Maybe it's only 90%. I don't know. So yeah, you got 3 options. Either replace the battery inside I'd recommend 3 years on average, or have it phoenixed and you never have to worry about the battery again. Because once you install the Phoenixed EPROMs, you can cut the battery out. You never have to worry. Or the 3rd edition, if the game has already died and you don't want to Phoenix it, you can have those EPROMs reprogrammed. So, yeah, that's one bad thing about the CPS2 hardware. It's a pain in the ass, but at least your game lives on. At least it's not a dead paperweight. And it's guys like this that help keep the collecting hobby alive. I think I once had a Street Fighter Alpha 3 board which was totally dead, and I thought it was just a paperweight. I ended up having it phoenixed, and I enjoyed playing that game. So there you go. Until next time.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.